Welcome everyone to our review of The Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian!
We will discuss our spoiler-free thoughts and takeaways to start, and then we'll jump into a spoiler review later. We'll give you a spoiler warning also when we get there. So, John, I just want to know, what are your initial thoughts?
Initial thoughts?
Yes.
Great.
Great.
I thought it was a great way to introduce not only Disney Plus as a platform, but also a great way to introduce us into this new live action Star Wars type of universe through TV series. I mean, it was really enjoyable. It was fun. I thought it was well paced. I think it knew exactly what type of show it was and how to go about achieving the goals that it set out. I really enjoyed it. What did you think?
I follow along the same line as you. Probably not as enthusiastic. I did think it was very good. A really good episode. To get a feel for what the rest of the tone is going to be going forward. I like the new direction. I will say that it is something unlike we've ever seen before. Very, very excited in that regard. As far as an overall episode, it it had an effect on me that I was satisfied, but I didn't want to go for seconds. Not to say that I'm not excited for the next episode, but usually when I watch Star Wars content, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to see that again. I'll do a rewatch. I did not do a rewatch, and I'm forming my opinion based off just that.
Okay.
But by no means am I taking away from it. It was very good, and I did like it. I liked a lot of things. There's a few things that had me thinking a little bit, and yeah, that's where I'll leave it with my initial thought.
Okay.
I thought it was good.
Good.
For me, at least, thinking about this, the characters were awesome. I loved the characters that they set up. I hated one character in particular, and they did something with that character which I felt made me feel good in the episode early on, and it really is nice to know that the character that we're watching with Pedro Pascal's character, the Mandalorian, we don't even know his name yet.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they set up his stoicness. I love how he walks in the room. I love how he carries himself. It's not a normal walk when he's in the shots. He's definitely walking with weight. And I enjoy that idea of that. It feels, and everyone's saying this online, like a Western.
Yeah.
Definitely feeling like a stranger, outsider type of feel who has a purpose that not many would understand.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Definitely with the Western feel of it. Definitely, he's a man on a mission. He doesn't care what he has to do to achieve it. It doesn't feel like a desperate kind of character though, where he needs to achieve his mission. It's just this is who he is. This is his purpose. He is a bounty hunter.
It's like his 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's his job exactly.
It's his job without it feeling like there's a lot at stake. It's his job in which we get to watch a documentary about it.
Yeah,
Which
just a day in the life.
Cool. Exactly. The story, it didn't grab me like I thought it would, but it's grabbed me enough to where, and I'm saying just simply from beginning to end, there is some sort of story. There's an intro. There's a little bit of exposition, and it doesn't really for me get going until probably the final scene.
Yeah,
And that would be one of my gripes about it, is just there's a lot of meaningless scenes in my mind. I know you're setting up like, oh, this is the Mandalorian. Look at how he gets to show off certain things, skill sets that he has. But as far as multi-layer plot devices, you only follow him.
mm-hmm.
There's like, in a scene, there's like only 30 seconds you don't follow him around. And that's with the alien I really don't like.
Oh yeah.
So that's the only time we don't get to see his perspective.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of would have to disagree. I think as far as the story and the plot goes, I think it's a type of show that knows that how long it has to tell a story, that it's not an immediate instant gratification for its viewers, that it's going to be paced out over the next how many episodes is it?
It's 8 episodes.
8 episodes. It's got,
And this was a short one at 39 minutes.
yeah. So it's got 6 hours, roughly, probably 6 to 7 hours to tell this type of story. It knows that it needs to set up enough intrigue initially, and it also knows that based on the viewers, we're going to continue investing in it. I mean, we have a week free trial for Disney Plus for anybody that didn't or that has signed up for it initially. So we've got the first episode out Tuesday, this past Tuesday. We got the next episode out Friday. So right off the bat, we've got instant access to the first 2 episodes. So it doesn't need to pay off everything initially. It can wait until the second episode, which, like you said, there's that little spark at the end of this is what's coming. This is the type of stakes that we have now and what we're going to invest in it. And I think in the second episode, it's probably going to do more to get the ball rolling and kind of excite the pace a bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's got enough intrigue, and I have enough questions after the episode to stay invested into the next few episodes at least.
Yeah, I won't take it away. I won't take that away from it. The plot, that last scene, that third act, if you will, that got me excited for the next thing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I was kind of like watching it like in wonder, but also thinking like some of this is boring, which I get. Most first episodes for series can be that way, but some, in a lot of TV shows they present like some overarching problem that you get a sense of at the end of the episode, which we did get here. But I don't know, the way it was paced, which is correct for the tone, didn't really sit well for me.
It's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn, but it being a Star Wars movie, I'm not used to it, so it's a little Star Wars property, not movie, but it's a little jarring. Is probably what's getting at me.
That's fair.
But I loved the setting of it, the planets you visit, the CGI was good. I think they nailed it. For a TV show, streaming service show, this looks beautiful.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the percentage of practical effects to CG effects is probably pretty similar to what the original trilogy had, where so much of it felt real and tangible and worn, and it wasn't as like new and shiny as the prequels were, for instance, when they really overdid the CG.
I felt like it was a good, like you said, it was a good mix where you see the original trilogy practical effects, and then you see some CGI elements from the prequels, but it's not overdone.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I will say, it's definitely not as pretty as the sequels have been, which are masterpieces in VFX.
Yeah.
For a TV show, though, if I'm comparing it to TV, this is amazing, on par with Game of Thrones level of detail.
Yeah.
I would say some minor elements probably, but that aren't as good as Game of Thrones, but generally on that level, on that pace, on that par. But I don't believe it's at the Last Jedi type of beauty, not on the Force Awakens, maybe on par with Solo, and it feels like Star Wars. It looks like Star Wars, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything in this, without giving anything away, is there anything from this episode that stuck out to you that kind of made you cock your head like, oh, I really like this choice that they made?
My probably biggest takeaway was just the dynamic between the Mandalorian as a character and the things around him, and just the way he interacted with a guide in the middle of the episode, and that doesn't give anything away. But the recognition that guide had of the Mandalorian's history and the history of his people, you can tell that there's a weight to this character and to its heritage that he is fully aware of. And there's a couple different types of ceremonies almost throughout throughout the middle and the beginning of the episode. I think you know what I'm talking about. We'll maybe discuss it later.
Yeah.
Where there's this tradition that we haven't really seen on screen before of the Mandalorian as a people. So I really appreciate how we're building I really appreciate the world building from a new perspective outside of the Jedi and the Sith and these things that we're so familiar with. Because even in the Clone Wars TV show, you get a little bit more of the Mandalorian history and the conflict with its people in that time period. But it's always good to delve back into things that are new and unfamiliar that are interesting as well.
Well, yeah. It plays on that duality, but and I know which scene you're talking about, and I totally agree. I love how they explore that Mandalorian religion or that tradition that they hold over. That is not. That is. It's a clan type of feel. So I really do enjoy that. But for me, what stuck out there, it felt like, and for some of you who played Star Wars games, it felt like a video game, but where you're watching a cutscene that goes on forever. Like, that's the kind of quality where it's like, I'm intrigued, but there's nothing I can do about this. And the Mandalorian character, Pedro Pascal's character, reminds me a lot of the aesthetic of this game called Bounty Hunter, which had Jango Fett in it. And it just felt gritty, weighted, the underworld. I loved that. And there's even a moment where I think there is a scream when there's blasters going off.
Yeah.
There's a little scream or yell when someone gets shot. That sounds like the same effect from the Knights of the Old Republic game, when there's an underbelly organization and they have gang members, and when those gang members die, they make a sound. They're like, oh, to describe it on here doesn't do it justice, but it just brought me to that. It brought me to Bounty Hunter, the Jango Fett game. It brought me to Knights of the Old Republic. The effects and the feeling that I got. It stuck out to me that this was handled so carefully. There was a clear direction with this, and I am very grateful for that.
And just as a quick aside for that, Jon Favreau, who was the showrunner on this, has been heavily involved with Lucasfilm recently, at least, and he brought on and is basically, co-writing this to a degree with Dave Filoni, who is like the lore expert for Skywalker Farms. He's one of the masterminds behind the Clone Wars series. He directed this episode as well, and it has a similar feel, I think, to that type, or to a lot of what the Clone Wars was, between the humor and the aesthetic and just like the pace of it. So you're right. There's so much care and knowledge behind and passion behind this project that they know exactly what they're doing, what they want to say.
It definitely felt like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to give them credit. It felt like they cared, and I will consider that a win for the fans. Which, speaking of the fans, do you think does this appeal to somebody who's not a Star Wars fan? Much like how Game of Thrones appealed to people who didn't know those books existed. I
think that because of the lack of exposition initially and the direction from the world that we're taking, if I was somebody that didn't understand the previous trilogies and the Skywalker saga, if I were to just walk into this with a fresh slate, I think that there is enough tangible interest in the series to captivate me initially. I would definitely be intrigued. I don't know if it would be something that I would be super passionate about, but I think it's a good starting place for somebody who is new to the world. Now, obviously Star Wars isn't for everybody, but I think this is probably a better introduction point for someone new than this new trilogy of the final trilogy of Skywalker films.
Really?
I think so. Well, because there's so much history and characters that tie into, so many core characters that tie into the new trilogy of films, that to just come in with a blank slate, to not know who Luke or Leia or Han are, or C-3PO or R2 or any of these core characters, and then to know that there's a weight behind them, but to not understand it, I think takes you away from it. But there's really no attachment to these characters. There's no real weight or history to them because we don't know anything about them, especially the Mandalorian itself.
You know, I would agree with that idea. I mean, obviously, the best starting point in anything Star Wars is obviously A New Hope.
Yeah.
But if you choose another entry, I would think that the Mandalorian is that next spot. So I think as time goes on, we'll form a better opinion on whether it can be for the filthy casual.
Yeah.
But for right now, I think it's more for fans, but it can be for casual fans too. I think if someone's not a fan, like they're like, oh, I've never seen Star Wars or anything, watching this is going to confuse them immensely because some of these things aren't put into culture like Game of Thrones, where there are dragons. People know what dragons are, even though they don't exist. Kind of like saying, instead of dragons, they're unicorns. People that unicorns don't exist. They know what unicorns are. I think with the Star Wars universe, there's that bridge that they can't cross, but I think it can still be made for anybody who's never watched Star Wars. I think for those who are casual fans, it will still mean something. So I'm excited to see where this goes, and I hope that it gets to a point of exposition and understanding that people really do, non-fans, can jump over.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think this episode is better than most TV premieres?
Well, I mean, obviously with something that has Disney's kind of money, I mean, there's what, $10 to $15 million per episode on this thing?
$10 million an episode, something like that.
So that gives it at least quite a bit of quality on its own, if nothing else for the sake of CGI and the ability to build the practical effects that they need. So from a production standpoint, I think it's much better quality than a lot of other pilots and things that I've seen.
Absolutely. I'll agree with you 100% as far as production quality. Do you think as an premiere that grabs you?
I personally, I'm okay with the slow burn and the lack of exposition on it, because I understand enough of Star Wars to know that there will be more payoffs down the road. So I feel like I can appreciate it more, even though there may not be enough like big flashy things that catch so many people's eyes. And not to say like I'm a master of nuance or anything, but I think it echoed well with me, and I think I liked it more than a lot of other pilots that I've seen lately. Especially like I think it's way better than the Game of Thrones pilot.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, the Game of Thrones pilot, with how it ends, is similar to this.
Yeah.
There's nothing going on. There's a little bit of political intrigue where this family is with the king, the Lannisters. They make fun of the Starks, the way they live, and then the Starks are trying to be respectful, but they're also talking about how fat the king is and all this stuff. Kind of, it's not a great first episode until that last scene. Fantastic. And I think the Mandalorian tried to do that. I don't think they were far off from the mark. I thought they were very close. Or that feeling of like, I'm going to watch another episode. And I think this also fails from not... I mean, I think we've discussed before, not on a podcast, but in general, that doing it episodically, like a weekly release, will be a good thing. After watching this first episode, I wish they had released maybe 3 episodes to start, because the way it ended, into it, I'd be like, man, I wish there was another episode. 5 minutes later, I wasn't feeling
Doesn't
that
like
same
hold
feeling.
your attention as well as say the Game of Thrones pilot did.
Yeah. With the way the Game of Thrones pilot ended, I was like, I need to watch the next one. What happened to this kid? Talking about Bran. But with this one, I was intrigued, but it's so open-ended. I don't know. So at first I was like, yes. 5 minutes later, I was like, okay.
Okay.
It didn't grab me like Chinese food. Or 30 minutes later, like, I need more. So I I still think it's, like you said, it's better than most pilots. But it's better than most TV pilots, I will say that. But I think it's pretty much on par. I don't think it's a great step above a bunch of the streaming ones and production quality that you get from HBO, that you get from Hulu, from Amazon. I think it's on par with those. So if you're wondering if Disney has hit below the mark, I think it's hit on the mark.
Okay. And as far as like a precursor for the next Disney Plus originals, like all the MCU TV shows that are coming, I think, as we've discussed, like with this level of production and the budget and the money that they're able to pour into it, to me at least, I know that I'm going to be getting good quality production, at least, from all these future TV shows. So I know that they're going to do the effects of Scarlet Witch right, and I know that they're going to get the Loki series. They're going to be able to time jump into all these different locations and places and time eras. I know they'll be able to pull off that pretty well. So for me, at least, that's foreshadowing of pretty good series. And I think Disney Plus is, money-wise, pretty well set to make some good shows.
Let's hope so. Let's hope a bunch of those kids, let's hope a bunch of parents buy Disney Plus so kids can watch the easy, low-budget content that pays for us to get our higher stuff.
There it is.
Our better quality stuff. So I think we're both on the same page. As we thought it was good. I think you're a little bit more excited than me. I enjoyed it very much. It's not like when we walked out of Last Jedi and you're like, oh man, wasn't that great? And I was like,
Chris, that was a dark time in my life. Let's not go back to that, okay?
I've transformed you.
Anyways. I was not a fan of The Last Jedi. It's okay. Don't hate me.
But we're going to go into spoiler territories, everyone. So if you haven't seen the new episode, the premiere, go see it. Please. I think it's definitely worth a watch for anybody who's a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
All right. We're in spoilers. John.
Spoilers.
John.
Chris.
Mini Yoda.
Little baby Yoda thing.
Baby Yoda?
Oh my god. Yeah. So what excited me so much about that was that that's only the third time that we've ever seen a creature from the species on any kind of canonical material at all. We've got Yoda. We've got Yaddle, which nobody's really ever familiar with her, but she
was in the first movie and then she disappeared.
Yeah.
And the explanation for her is in the Legends. So what? And it's not even a lot.
Yeah. And so now we have only the third ever sighting of this type of species, which just gives it that much more intrigue. Like, obviously, with all of the other examples of this species that we've seen, they're all super force sensitive and very powerful.
Yes.
So you know that there's this potential and this mystery behind this baby that people are fighting over because they want to use that power for themselves. That's probably why the bounty was placed on it and why they want it alive, but they're also willing to accept dead because at least then the threat is nullified. But
with the idea of force-sensitive creatures, with the Zabraks and the Night Sisters, the creatures of Dathomir, it's so great that we finally get to see a light side. Well, not finally. I think there are other iterations of it in outside canon in the expanded universe, but I am excited to see this. I think it's amazing. I think it's cool, and it's in the final scene. This is what got me like, oh, this is interesting, but not because we've never seen other Yodas. I think that's cool, but I'm more interested in what the Mandalorian's decision is going to be, because he killed IG-11.
Yeah,
because the IG-11 was going to shoot it, and I'm wondering, was that because he had, for morality reasons, or because he wanted to bring it alive so he gets a better bounty for the Beskar?
Yeah.
Or Fiskar.
I don't know.
Steel.
Beskar Steel.
The Beskar Steel. I'm curious, like, did he keep it alive for that? Is it because it's a baby? That's where my mind's going. I'm interested what he's going to do with this baby Yoda.
That's true. His morality is pretty gray in the previous part of the episode. That's true. I hadn't thought of it like that.
He's at least I know he's honorable in the way that, the Ugnaught, Nick Nolte, which I thought was cool. I have spoken. And he walks away. I love that nuance that they brought to a species where it's just a quirk and it works.
Yeah.
I love it. But with the Nick Nolte character, he's like, "Thank you for bringing me here. Here, take this as payment." And the Nick Nolte character, the other guy's like, "No, no, I don't need this. All I want is peace." So the Mandalorian does have a sense of like, you brought me here, take payment. I like
Yeah.
that honorable side he has. Obviously, he's a bounty hunter, and he's gonna do some dark stuff. But it was very nice to see that idea of like, I could still pay you. I could still be gentlemanly in this way, kind of like how only sirs and generals would be on the battlefield in the 1700s. They'd be like, "Oh, it's a gentleman's game." It felt not like that, but it felt better than a Western.
Yeah.
In which people can be respectful.
Like a samurai Western.
Yeah, even though samurai in history were very cunning and very, very deceitful. Very much the opposite of what the legends tell us. But man, that first scene.
Oh, when he goes and picks up the bounty.
Yeah, I hated that alien. He's so annoying. And I love that he carbon froze him.
Well, I mean, I think at least that way you feel like it's deserved. I mean, you're right. Like, I kind of wanted it to end, but not to the same level that I think you did. But it's like a more of a dry sense of humor, I think, when they were trying to introduce. And overall, I think the humor worked pretty well. That character, he was just weird, and like you don't really know what he did to deserve having a bounty on his head. You don't know what he was involved in or how he got mixed up in anything.
Yeah, and with that scene, what would make it better for me, because I like the scene until he goes under for the bathroom.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a problem with the bathroom. I have a problem when he opens up the gun locker and he just closes it.
Why do you say that?
Can he grab a gun to protect himself? Like, maybe he's going to go up there and kill the Mandalorian character? Like, it just felt like he was helpless, even though he just opened a giant gun locker. He knows what's going on. Is he gonna go down without a fight?
So to me, at least, I think he just witnessed a whole room full of guys with blasters get taken out by this one guy. So he knows that the Mandalorian is pretty invulnerable to blaster fire, and that if he's not experienced enough, he's not going to stand a chance anyways in close quarters combat. So it was probably more out of just fear of this character that he was like, nope, I'm not going to die today, because he knows that if he starts shooting, he's going to die. No matter what, like he's gonna go back. He's not gonna be brought back warm. He's gonna be brought back cold.
Yeah, that was really cool.
That
threat. Moving forward, what is your favorite scenes?
I think part of my favorite scene. It would probably be a tie between his interaction with Yugnot and his interaction with IG-11, because it shows a depth to this character that he's more than just a mercenary and a bounty hunter. He's like you said, like he's very respectful of the help that is given to him by this Ugnaught. Mm-hmm. He when they're discussing like your ancestors used to ride, what were they called?
Mythosaurs.
Mythosaurs. Your ancestors used to ride this mythosaurs, so you can ride a blurg.
Is it mythosaurs or mythosaurs?
Mythothangs.
Mythothangs. Okay.
Mythothangs. So he is respectful. He admires this character's opinion, and he understands that he's right. Like he should be able to do this. And there's just that subtlety and complexity that I appreciate. And then his interaction with IG-11, where they're fellow bounty hunters. He's trying to be fair, at least with it. Like they both show up at the same time. Whether or not he plans to like play him or betray him afterwards is kind of up in the air. But he's just there, and their comedic interaction between Taika Waititi's portrayal of the character, which I thought was well done. It wasn't overdone like it could have been if they just copied it from Korg.
I was just surprised how early we got IG-11.
Yeah,
like most of the stuff in the trailers were in this. Like it's except for what is it, Carl Esposito?
Yeah.
His character has not been shown yet, and like the bounty hunters, like Bill Burr and the woman from what is it, wrestling or something?
Yeah.
UFC. I don't know, but there's
Gina Carano.
Yes, Gina Carano, but they're not. They haven't made their appearance yet. But as far as the early trailer stuff that we got, we've seen a good chunk of it already.
Yeah, which is, I think, positive in that we don't know where this is going, how it's going to end. I think, just like with the Rise of Skywalker trailer, they do a good job of kind of like hitting the fan service points, but not enough to really give anything away and leave you with a lot of questions and leaves them a lot of room for twists.
Yeah, I would agree. Overall, like for me, there is a lot of room left, and for me, my favorite scene was gotta be the armory.
Okay.
The person who's forging, he's like when he's trying to be like, do you have an insignia or logo, basically? And he's like, no, and she's like, soon, like
It hasn't
like,
revealed itself yet.
Yeah, so it shows me some motivations for the character,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like how complex they're making the Mandalorian to be without him saying a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The subtleties I did in the writing were great. Where it's like, hey, I want to get paid for this bounty, and they're like, here's some Imperial credits. And he's like, if you could not tell, the Empire is no longer around, so give me someone else. And they're like, how about calamari, which is a play off the Mon Calos, which is Admiral Akbar's species.
Yeah,
that must be their currency. And he's just like, fine. And he even takes like a lower cut too. So, and the bounties that they're given are not good until he gets this big score. I loved all that when he's on that planet, that run around of this is a 9 to 5, but it's a 9 to 5 with a goal at the end of being a bounty hunter. He's looking for glory. He's looking for establishment of a logo and to be among the clans.
yeah.
Even though they do not do a lot of exposition for it.
Which, like, they have those quick little flashbacks to him as a kid, and I definitely think that we're going to get more of those down the road. But it's just enough to kind of flash where he's been from and then move forward, because I don't think he's really hung up on it. I think he's the type of character that's just going to keep pushing forward, do what he has to do to survive. He's not like avenging, at least it doesn't seem like he's avenging anyone's death, or maybe not even necessarily like the dignity of his people. It's just he is like a lone gunman out on his own, taking care of himself.
Yeah. Well, I like that scene he has with the forge, but I also don't like the way they portray that they're, oh look, it's like little kids that are from the Mandalorian camps just walking around in this underbelly where the clan symbol is. I don't know. It didn't feel concise to me, but I think I'm reading too much into it, and it just felt like I said, I like the swag that he walks when he goes to the market. There's the creature, I don't think his name's Sai Sibbles or whatever.
Yeah.
The Jabba creature, and there's one like in a cage, and there's one being roasted, and it's like, oh no, like it's crying for its roasting brethren. There are a lot of different small things that they did with this that I really enjoy, but it was just, it didn't feel like there was enough action in it. We were just getting a big, like I said earlier, you don't think there's a lot of exposition in this, but I think there's a lot of exposition that makes no sense. Like the scene with the ice walrus.
Yeah.
Like, what was that? It felt like there was no point to that scene because the Mandalorian didn't look like it didn't establish him as a badass or anything in that. He shot the creature with his gun and that was it, and let go of the ship.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure that there'll be things that come back and pay it off a little bit later. I mean, it shows that I think it's the dichotomy of the character that he was with, how that character was panicking. He felt like his life was in danger, and the Mandalorian just calmly stood up. He walked to the back. He got out on the outside of his ship, poked it with his gun, electrocuted it. It fell. He knows exactly how to take care of situations. It showed his confidence and his calm and his swagger, and he didn't even have to think about it. He wasn't panicked at all. It wasn't anything outside of his comfort zone. It was, this is what needs to happen. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to deliver my bounty, and nothing really bothers me.
Hey, when you frame it that way, yeah. I felt like they could have done more with that scene, though. I did really think it was cool when the monster basically ate the dude in the land speeder. I thought that
Yeah.
was hilarious. It was to me, I was laughing.
Yeah.
But the comedy moments that are standing out to me is the thermal detonator, like self destruct from IG-11, and he's like, no, 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 don't do that. That felt great.
Yeah. It felt very natural, very it wasn't like slapstick comedy. It felt like that original Star Wars type of humor where it just kind of flowed casually, and just like I love Taika Waititi, and I'm glad that he's directing more episodes, that he's involved in this series. I think they utilized his type of humor very well, and not overdone or like amplified in any way. It was just enough to counteract the Mandalorian's sensibilities.
Yeah, I agree with that. I very much liked how his character interacted, and IG-11 was a badass shooting everyone.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like that's how a droid would kill people.
So now, do you think since it's a droid and there are obviously multiple iterations of that type of droid, do you think that since IG-11 is dead, that they might bring in IG-12, excuse me, or IG-13 or something, another variation of this, and use Taika Waititi in that way?
I've actually thought about this. I think that so IG-11 got shot.
Yes,
In
the head.
In the head. I think the guild is going to have access to him, and they're going to be like, he was on the target. What happened? They're going to go and they're going to restore his systems to find out what happened, and maybe the guild is going to go against the Mandalorian, which is going to make him feel more alone.
Okay.
I think that's something that me looking forward. That's what the potential is that IG-11, because of his incident, is going to help propel the story to, hey, now the guild's on you, and maybe he betrays the Empire and the client, or maybe because he's working with the client, the guild finds out what's going on, which it could be like the Ravagers from Marvel, where we don't steal kids. You know, maybe it might be we don't traffic kids. It might be the same thing here with the guild, where it's like we don't kill kids,
Or do you think
or
that
we don't fail a contract in this way.
so you think he might be used like Nebula was in Endgame, where they take like a visual recording from their memory banks and see exactly what happened in that situation,
Yeah.
and that sparks the conflict to move
Oh,
forward.
absolutely.
Okay.
I definitely am intrigued with that, and I'm intrigued to see if the reason why he didn't kill the Yoda is it because of moral code, or is it because of the payment.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
So what are your final takeaways from this episode so far? Are you excited about future episodes? What do you think?
I'm excited about future episodes. Now, I know I said I wasn't grabbed as much, but I'm still excited. Like the fan service in it enough, I'm excited.
Yeah.
And the blurgs I did not like, but I did like that they wanted to involve different creatures, speeders that they brought back, and him being practical, like, why can't we just take a speeder, dude? Talking to the Ugnaught, Nick Nolte's character in the lore. So I'm excited, and I think that as time goes on, this slow burn is not. I don't think it's going to be a slow burn for the rest of the season.
Oh yeah.
I think every episode is going to pick up a little bit more, bit more. I think it's going to accelerate, and this episode just seemed boring to me, but I'm okay with that.
I think it's gonna be like a train getting going, where initially it's very slow, but eventually it's got enough momentum and power behind it to really, really pack a punch.
Yeah, but I still don't want to take my critical eye away from it. For me, who's just casual, not like some critic or whatever. But I just hope that I'm more worried about Disney sticking the landing.
Okay.
Because they have a cool concept here, and I would totally hate for them to screw it up.
Fair enough. So, do you think that in any way that they played it safe for this premiere? Is that maybe what you're thinking about, like with the slow burn? Do you think that they were afraid to jump full on into the action, or what do you think?
I think they played safe in the right places. I think they took risks. I thought they took good risks. They played it safe, obviously, with they played it safe with the choices of we're not going to talk as much. This is part of the tone, disposition. you know, and in some of the scenes where the Pedro Pascal's character is talking, I don't feel like he's that menacing. He seems more confused, or he just seems kind of bored. So, but I like how they use so little of that. So I think that's playing it safe, but I did like that choice. I like the choices that they're gonna make for the future with the Yoda thing. That writing, that's got me excited. That's a risk.
Yeah.
Because some people, you know how they are. I don't want to know the origins. I don't want to know more about this character. Keep it a mystery. What do you think?
So I think in one regard, I think the opposite in that the choice for Pedro Pascal's character to be so, to have such a little dialogue and to be more nuanced in that regard, especially when you can't see his face and his, the subtleties in that kind of reaction, I think is more of a risk from a storytelling standpoint in this day and age when more people rely on such flashy things to really grasp onto. For him to be so minimalistic in his communication, and for us to be able to relate to it, I think in fewer ways than someone who communicates more, I think is more of a risk. Now, they got great casting from him, and I think it's those little interactions with, like the Ugnaught and IG-11 and the other people that he interacts with that give off the subtleties that you need. But as far as interaction goes, there's so much blank or so much dead space that they have to rely on that subtlety to really fill in the void. That I think if they had miscast or the production value wasn't there, if there wasn't enough going on around it, I think it could just feel just like dead space, and that there wasn't any momentum at all. But I think knowing Pedro Pascal and his type of performances, there's a bit more trust. I think there's room for a little bit more risk there, which makes me a little bit more intrigued and excited.
Well, we'll agree to disagree, but I see where you're coming from with that. Do you think you would recommend this to Star Wars fans, normal fans, and is there a place you would rate this amongst Star Wars content?
I definitely, as a viewer, I would definitely recommend this. Definitely from the production standpoint, I think from the, like you said, like the lanes that they've opened up here, I think are really interesting, and I can't wait to see where they go. As far as where it stacks up against other Star Wars content, I mean, there's definitely a level of like grandeur to the main movies that I don't think that they can really fully grasp in a TV show, but which is good because everything has its place. Personally, I mean, I would put this above probably Solo. I would put it up there quality wise with Rogue One. I think it's a probably pretty safe bet. I think it has the potential for me to enjoy it more than The Last Jedi. Obviously, with it being a premiere, there's not a whole lot there, so there's definitely room to grow. But I think tone-wise, consistency-wise, it's up there with Rogue One for me.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be probably better than Rogue One, where it ranks for me. I think it's going to be it's already better than the prequels. I think it's better than The Last Jedi. As far as Force Awakens, it doesn't need to be that because it's something completely new. So I think it's better than that.
Yeah.
I would say that it is in the vein of the original trilogy. And that's what has me thinking the tone they selected, the care that they put in, it has me trusting Disney more and more.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see the next episode.
And we get to see that this Friday.
And Woo! we'll have another review of that episode next week.
Yeah.
Probably around the same time this one goes up, and we'll have a review we'll have a review for episode 2, and we'll have a review for episode 3, because we're just getting all those spicy episoose.
Episode 3 won't be next Friday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not Tuesday, Friday.
That's right. I always keep on thinking it's Tuesday. Yeah, so we're gonna watch it, and we'll have a review out next week of episode 2.
Yes.
Around this time. Right.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to see where the series goes.
Yeah.
And I'm excited we have an outlet to talk about it.
This is the series we deserve as Star Wars fans.
Yes.
I hope George is excited too.
I think he will be.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you next week, everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.